Hi all, this is Sean from Time and Talk. So this video is going to be about the Garmin Vivoactive 4S, which is something that I've just picked up. It's not going to be kind of a very detailed review because I think you'd need to know this for a little bit longer to do that. Just a quick run through for people who just want a little bit of information on the watch and to find out how it wears and what kind of features it has. So just show you a quick look at the packaging. So this is the box, so it's the Vivoactive 4S, and this was £180. The retail price is £220, but I found it on QVC of all places, which is a catalogue retail store in the UK. I'm sure they have QVC in other places, so I'm not sure why I'm explaining that. But they do a 3 easy payment thing where you can pay the balance over a number of months. So it was cheaper than buying the equivalent models. I've also looked at the Apple Watch, which is about £200, the Series 3, and the Garmin Forerunner 245 Music. In particular, I wanted a watch that I could use for running, that would also allow me to play my music through it so I wouldn't have to take my phone along with me. So that was the most important feature, if you like, of this watch for me. There are a couple of differences between the Garmin Forerunner 245 and this model, which I'll try to go through in the video. And I chose this rather than an Apple Watch for the simple fact that my wife saw it on QVC and recommended it to me, and we bought it together. And if you're a runner, if you're into exercise and you want a smartwatch for exercise, it's perhaps not a great idea to buy it and share it with somebody, because it tracks both of those people's data. So you're not going to get maybe the experience that you would if you bought it by yourself. So that's another quick recommendation. So this is the Garmin Vivoactive 4S. There are two models. There's the Vivoactive 4 and the Vivoactive 4S. The S stands for small, so this is the smaller model. The 4S is 40mm and the 4 is 44mm. If you're just looking for a watch with more screen real estate, get the 44. Obviously, I prefer a slightly smaller watch. I've got a smaller wrist, and also, as I said, I was sharing it with my wife, so I thought she would appreciate the slightly smaller model. I'll just take you through some features, and then I'll run through briefly some of the pros and cons of the watch at the end. So this is the home screen, and obviously this is where you find the time. So you can set a number of different watch faces, and it also has various data on the watch face too. So it's got the date, your heart rate, and the amount of steps per day, and depending on which watch face you use, you will get different data on the front screen. This is a touchscreen watch, so that's one of the differences between this and the Garmin 245. The 245 is not touchscreen. Every function is found via the buttons, whereas this one does have a touchscreen and it has two buttons on the right hand side. So basically what happens is if you press the top right button, you get a series of exercises that you can do using this watch. So a lot of people will be runners and they'll be using this watch to track their runs, but there are a number of different exercises: yoga, Pilates, rowing, skiing, and I think you can add more. The reason that I bought this is for running, but I've also been tracking my heart rate when I've been doing cardio exercises. And what you do is you basically just click, and when you go outside, you wait for the GPS. When the GPS comes on, you press the top right button again and you start tracking your exercise. You press the button again to stop, and then you can discard or keep the exercise as you wish. Sometimes I found that discard button a little difficult to press, to be honest, and I'm sure it's just because the screen's slightly smaller than you might expect for a watch of this type, so that's something to bear in mind. The back button is always bottom right, so that's something to bear in mind too. If you press the top right button and hold it down, you get a bunch of options that you can choose to go into various functions. So for example, Spotify, the on-off switch, find your phone, stopwatch, etc. As I've said, I've only had this watch for about a week and a half, so I haven't fully got to grips with the different functions of the watch, but I've not really used this as yet, to be honest, at all. On the bottom right button, you press and hold it, you get other options. So the watch face, you can change the watch faces to various different types, digital only, ones with different features and functions. And this is where the settings is as well. So you can control the apps on the watch. You can add third-party apps, so things like Spotify, which are obviously really useful, except for today where Spotify is out for the whole world apparently, and various other things. So you can add your Wi-Fi password, you can add safety alerts, things like that. Okay. If you flick, this is where you can access your music. So as I said, you can add Spotify, you can download playlists to this watch, which is incredibly useful because you don't have to take your phone out with you when you go on a run, which is probably the biggest reason I bought this watch. That's just a quick run through of the features. If you look at the back, there's where the charging cable connects to the watch, and there's the heart rate monitor. You don't need any chest straps or anything like that. It's all done through your wrist. I think you can buy an add-on chest strap if you so wish. The watch takes ordinary watch bands of 20mm, so for a watch fan, that's probably a bonus. I've seen some other reviews of this watch that said it's quite cheap feeling, and it does actually feel quite light. But for me, that's a good thing. You don't want to be running with a watch that weighs 200 grams, 500 grams on your wrist. Apparently this weighs 40 grams, which is extremely light, but I see that as a good thing. The straps do feel quite thin and light, but again, I can't really see a problem with that myself. I'll show you it on the wrist. So it wears quite nice. It's quite a nice size. It's 40mm. I would think that the majority of men would go for the 44mm version. I think it's the same price. It might be slightly more expensive, but obviously you get that bigger screen. It's not really an issue for me. Unless you've got really poor eyesight, you should be able to see the data on the screen. I think in terms of the pros and cons of this watch, the pros are it's got loads of features. It allows you to track a variety of exercises. It has that ability to be able to add and download music to the watch itself, so you don't have to take your phone out with you. And obviously you can pair some Bluetooth headphones with it, which is quite an easy process. It's nice and light. There are various ways to customize it, so you can have different watch faces. There are different options in terms of color. I think you can get a rose gold version and things like that. I just got the black. I just got the bog standard one. I think in terms of a con that I've found of this watch, and I don't know if people will agree with me, I think I'm a fairly technical person. I'm not the most technical person in the world, but I know how to work a computer and I can usually figure most things out myself. But I've not found this watch to be particularly intuitive. Maybe it's me in the kind of dumbed down world of Apple, and you put your phone close to the watch and it tells you what to do. But for example, I'll give you an example. My wife wanted to do the Couch to 5K, and there is an app for it which allows you to read the data of Couch to 5K on this watch, and it was so unintuitive. You had to go round the houses and go to data screen 3, and it just wasn't very intuitive as a method of doing it. I also didn't find uploading Spotify to it to be particularly easy, though it was easier than that. So if you are really unsure about technology, you like stuff to tell you how to use it, I'm not sure this would be the best choice, but perhaps I'm being unfair. That's just been my perspective so far. So, taking this on a couple of runs, it's performed really well. The GPS signal did take a little while to get a hold of, but in terms of comparison with other watches, that might be standard. So I don't want to be unfair and say that. So if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Tell me what you think of the watch. Tell me what you think of smart watches in general. And thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.